I'd like to call this meeting to order at 12 noon, December 9th, 2021. Let somebody call the roll call, please.
Sure. Diego Benavides,
Here.
Nate Benavides, Onyx Benavides,
Present.
Daniel de la Rosa,
Present.
Alex Arreguín,
Yep.
Eduardo Ochoa,
Present.
Ofelia Mislan, Luis Ramirez.
After Chamberlain. Present.
We have four.
Outstanding.
Hi, Lizzie Hernandez. Yes, I'm here for the partner.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes. Need a motion to approve minutes from last meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion. Second, somebody? Second by Mr. Ramirez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. So, minutes have been approved. Item 4, public comments. Do we have anybody who wants to make any public comments? Anyone that wants to make public comments?
The only thing that last time we had a presentation, we need to limit the time on it. We can't go beyond a certain time because we all have a schedule. So I just want to know, what you guys think would be a good time for any type of presentation? And also the presentation is to be done for the benefit of the,
10 minutes?
I think 10 minutes is a lot. I mean, when I present,
Five?
no, I'm just saying, when I present, they give you 2, 3, 4 minutes.
I think the city has what, 3 minutes or 3 minutes, right?
3 minutes on
I think
public comment.
Public comment, if we follow that, I think we'll be all right.
Does the city have a time limit?
On the presentation?
On item presentation? No, right?
As long as it's on the agenda.
If it's on the agenda,
Yeah.
you kind of have a limited time, but I think we should limit it to, at least 10 minutes.
Or maybe a 3-minute intro, and we're very interested the next time we're around, and say, hey, we want to hear a fuller presentation.
You need your copy right now?
You're gonna make a motion?
That's what I'm going to make a motion if you want to.
I say 3-minute introduction on a presentation, and if we're interested, now
Public comments are what we're talking about, so your motion should say that we limit public.
what, see, I didn't know it was a public comment or what it was.
Public comment is already limited
Yeah.
to 3 minutes at city council, so
So what was the thing that we did last time where he was introducing?
there was an item, it was an itemized,
Okay.
it was on the agenda as an item. That's different, I think. Itemized, or not itemized. Items on the agenda tend
Or to
to
be
not
discussed.
have a limit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're for
Discuss
discussion.
fully, lack of
I think
motion.
for the sake of this committee, if we want to limit it, maybe we can limit it to a 10-minute max presentation or 5-minute maximum.
I know during the meeting, sometimes, I know council sets the meeting time up to a certain time. If you all limit the meeting up to a certain time, and if that item can be presented, then it gets pushed on to the next meeting.
I think we're trying to follow a schedule of 1 hour because we have
Yes,
commitments.
no,
Some are
and
taking
that's the
lunch
window that
break.
we have, is 1 hour.
So, I guess maybe we could coordinate, when somebody wants to put an agenda item, ask them how much time they need, and we can fit them in. If not, we'll listen to it here, and then the next meeting, listen to the rest of it. Or they can submit in writing what.
That sounds good, what you said.
Yeah.
Part 1 and part 2, we have to continue.
Yeah,
Because when you're given limited time, you actually just stick to what you really want to get across.
we can get long in the tooth, I guess. Sure.
Yes, sir.
All right.
If
So,
we, I don't, is that something, Mr. Garcia, that's already in our, in the organization of the committee? That we're limited,
Yeah, I'll-
a 1-hour pack, or is that something?
I'll
that's
set a
going
time
on?
limit to each one based on the complexity of the issue. And if you all want to extend more time or continue to the next meeting, you can always extend.
Sure, like if it's something huge, emergency, we have to plan, but if it's just a meeting.
Yeah, because we don't want people to start walking out and we lose quorum, then we can't make a motion on what's going on, all right? So that's very important. That's why I'm saying that if it's something that is, we may even need to call an emergency meeting for us, if it's necessary for us to listen to it.
Yes, sir.
So, you want to make a motion to the 3-minute limit on public comment?
Yeah.
I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second motion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, same sign. So we have a motion that limits public comment to 3 minutes per person. Okay, that's that. Okay, item 5, water master plan report.
On the water master plan report, I just wanted to report, I think, I would defer to,
Thank you. Gentlemen, Jim Lattice, Liquid Studio Group is part of the Integrated Water and Wastewater Master Plan teams. I have via the internet here, we have Tom Ray with LAN, Charles Shoemate, and Lisa Latu, all part of the Water Master Plan group. And then Hector Peña, who is part of the Wastewater Master Plan, that will be giving you all an update on our Water and Wastewater Master Plan progress. So at this time, I'd like to have Tom Ray just take that over and just kind of introduce his team and where we're headed with the Water Master Plan for the city of Laredo.
You bet. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the opportunity. Can everyone hear me okay? Is it coming through all right?
There's fine.
Good. We have the main team members of LAN that are working on the Water Master Plan. Myself and Lisa Latu, as well as Charles Shoemate. Charles Shoemate is talking just overseeing the hydraulic modeling involved with master planning. Lisa is in the area of looking at project needs, facility needs, preparing a CIP, also acting work in terms of looking at an impact fee and what the issues with that would be, to present those to the city staff. Also looking at, under her purview would be the rate work that needs to be done to support the improvements needed and identified in the master plan. Let's see, let me see if I can share my screen. We have a few slides just to give you an overview. Okay, is this going to come? There we go. Does that come through okay?
yes.
Good. All right. So we have several steps in a water master plan, and we're well along with a number of these, and a number of them we are still working on. We'll go into these in a little more detail in just a second. As far as what our master plan, the purpose, the goals, the objectives, if you will, we certainly want to look at the water side as well as the wastewater side, having the infrastructure available to meet Laredo's growth. Next slide will show. In the next slide or two, we'll show what that growth looks like. It's very significant. We want to coordinate and have been coordinating since we started, getting direction from Arturo and the city staff, getting a lot of information that we need to do this type of work from the city. We want to prepare a water supply options, or a number of options, to look at vulnerabilities in the current Laredo water system, and specifically to look at emergency outages, something that some contingency for losing the ability to draw water from the Rio Grande, either permanently or for a temporary period of time. And we'll show some of that in a minute. We want to understand the financial impacts as well as the financial needs, different opportunities, needs, financing, so improvements that are needed, that kind of thing. And working with Gene Belmars, we are very much wanting to make this a community plan to involve the constituents, those that have to receive the water, pay the bills, that type of thing. So we're cognizant of that as well, and have had a number of public meetings that you may have attended that Gene has coordinated for us. Looking at the main steps, this is not in any kind of detail, but here are the steps that we followed in developing the Laredo Water Master Plan. You begin by looking at your need, what is the future of water use, water need for Laredo and its customers. Second is the water supply alternatives. We'll talk about some of that in a moment in terms of when does Laredo need to have additional water supply to meet those needs. Proposed infrastructure, that's kind of what it's all about, is do we have the infrastructure and what kind of water infrastructure is needed either to replace facilities, components of treatment plants and pipelines, or to develop new capacities with new pipelines to new areas or replacing old pipelines with new higher capacity lines. And then the master plan will also look at how you finance those improvements. And one thing we're looking at in the process of looking at now is bringing in our impact fee staff to take a look at impact fees, how those could possibly work. We've had one meeting with the developers to introduce that. We're away from being able to present any details and get the development community's comments, but we will be doing that. And finally, we'll bring in a rate consultant. We're using Dan Jackson with Willdan, who is very familiar with Laredo and its current water rates and has the ability to incorporate the cost over time of improvements that are identified in the Water Master Plan. All right. I want to look a little more in detail at the needs, at the water needs for Laredo. This slide shows population growth. This is taken directly from the Region M plan, the Regional Water Plan. And you can see from a population standpoint, starting in 2020 at about 300,000, if you look out to 2070, Region M projects a doubling of the population to over 600,000 people. Associated with that is the water use projections. And you can see those there in acre feet, which is, if you're unfamiliar with that unit, that is 1 foot of water over 1 acre. Or we also gave the land by decade in million gallons per day. So you can see the growth in the water demand as well. This is average water demand, not peaks. They go from 39, roughly 40 million gallons a day, excuse me, to almost 55 million gallons a day on an average day basis. Currently, the city of Laredo has done a good job in securing water rights on the Rio Grande. That number, that 62,000 acre feet, 55 MGD, is the amount of water rights that the city of Laredo currently has available. Its current water projections out to the year, almost the year, well, just past the year 2040, probably 2045, that neighborhood. On out to 2070, the orange part of that graph shows that another 22,000 acre feet, 20 MGD, would be needed to meet the growth out to 2070. I've called that the supplemental supply that needs to be met. There is one other demand that we looked at in the master plan, and that is an emergency supply. What happens if Laredo, if something happens on the Rio Grande and there's an outage, Laredo is unable to divert water from the Rio Grande for some period of time? How much water is going to be needed, and where is that water going to come from? This shows what those future needs are in those two different types. Again, the supplemental water, that is the need after the year 2040, when additional water is needed just to meet the growth of the city of Laredo. That's that 20 MGD. Also, the other goal, though, is to have a water supply that meets the vulnerabilities of the Rio Grande system and looks at the possibility of an outage, how much water would be best to have. And what we came up with, and there's a lot of detail behind how we developed this goal, but the emergency water supply goal for that need is 33.5 MGD, or 37,500 acre feet. And that, when we get into looking, or when we looked at alternative water supplies, secondary water supplies, those are the two goal amounts that we tested the different water supplies against. Could they meet one or both of these supply needs? Is that clear? Any questions on that part of it? We're about to transition to Charles Shoemate and let him talk a little bit about the modeling that goes on, the hydraulic modeling that was needed. I would say on the supplemental water supply sources, LAN looked at about a dozen different sources. Some of those were groundwater related sources, some of them were surface water, some of them were dealt with brackish water. So we looked at all those, we came up with costs, we came up with reliability. We actually had a method of ranking those that we presented to the city council last month. So we will continue to develop those. There's more information coming in, particularly on the groundwater alternatives that have been looked at in the past, and some new groundwater alternatives that have come in that are located in Webb County. So we're still analyzing, still getting information on those, but we've got a lot of information on the dozen or so different secondary water supply sources that we think have some feasibility, and we'll be working on gaining that additional information on the 2 or 3 Webb County locations over the next couple of months. All right. Charles, are you there?
I am. Let's test my audio. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've got this. Can you see my slide, Charles?
I do, yeah. I think Tom, and I think Tom mentioned that, excuse me, we've pulled and borrowed slides from previous presentations, so I know I've got a little overlap in some of these. We'll try to make it flow well and all make sense. But in the water modeling, that task has been going on almost since the beginning of the project. And of course, at the end, we want good documentation of that model development process. And really the goal, and we repeat this coming up again here on another slide too, is just identify those capacity needs. That includes everything from treatment plant capacity to high service pump capacity, storage at booster pump stations and air pump capacity, lines within the system, those kind of things, and satisfying pressures throughout the system. Kind of think at a high level of those things in short term and long term, kind of addressing immediate needs and any shortages in the system. And then beyond that, moving on then to develop conceptual or planning level costs. And that's something with the CIP that I think Lisa's going to speak to just briefly. And, this process really has been, and we always want it to be, kind of dynamic, updatable in the future, and we've definitely revisited parts of the system and the old questions as there's been a need. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, let's see what the, you need the next slide. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I should have said next slide. So, this is from a a recent presentation, again, touching on goals for just a moment, kind of breaking in things into two big parts at a high level, looking at the existing system, improving operation, level of service here we generally think of or talk in terms of, pressure available to customers out there in the system. And then, that other need is future growth and making sure there's water for development out there in the city and areas not within the bounds of today's existing service area or system. And, okay, it's come back. I was gonna say, my video went blank there for a moment.
Well, I moved over into PowerPoint mode, so it actually.
Okay. And then here under the infrastructure needs headings, I mentioned all those things that, we look at addressing in the model. A number of different ways you can categorize and talk about those, but, once we identify and define those improvements, it'll be in terms, again, of treatment capacity, projects to address potentially deferred maintenance, just those outstanding items we know are on the books that need attention, booster pump capacity. And even if you don't need additional capacity in the near term, just, of course, as equipment ages, you need a plan for its replacement. Touched on storage capacity, you at least wanted to add here, that's both ground storage tanks at facilities, and then, the more visible part of the system maybe you see as you drive around are the elevated storage tanks out there. The distinction here between transmission and distribution lines really primarily is one of size and whether customers are connected directly to them or not, and there can be varying definitions of those things, but just in our thinking, transmission lines tend to be the medium to larger size lines that don't serve customers directly, and then from that you branch out into the distribution system where you're actually supplying customers or connecting customers. And don't want to overlook, of course, kind of like some of that older equipment, pipes in the system get old as well. Eventually, can begin to fail, and just needs to be a plan to address and replace those over time. The next slide, Tom. As we've defined projects, again, talk about how you fund those. I think Tom already touched on it already, but too, is, we're at that point, we're beginning to look at more of these things specifically with city staff and get their feedback. Of course, part of this process is what we're beginning here today, talking to the advisory committee. And then back to just Lisa and Tess coming up here, which actually they had started, and this is where it's gotten into that iterative process. Because of some of that early feedback, again, we're revisiting, just making sure the planning process is in line with the thinking of city staff, and taking advantage of the input that's provided. Lisa can talk more here in a minute about conceptual or planning costs. And again, with all these things, we want those to be dynamic and updatable. Those are always good terms to keep in mind for these things. And then looking at sources of funding. And I think our next slide then, Tom, gets into the rates and impact fees a little bit.
Did not, yes. You ready to go there?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a slide we talked with some members of the development community recently, and maybe animated, Tom. You can go ahead and hit record.
There it is.
Yeah, because we break these down in a couple of ways. So, all the ratepayers out there pay the connection and demand fees. That's, I just think of that in terms of the monthly water bill. And then, of course, with the development community and the developer fees, there are those, per acre or per lot, depending on the type of development, the annexation fees, and then availability fees that today are dedicated to purchasing additional Rio Grande water rights or river rights. It's these first two, the water services, and especially the annexation fees, that are candidates, I'd say, to be superseded or replaced potentially by an impact fee if the committee is agreeable and recommends, and the city decides to move in that direction and adopt an impact fee. So, that's the point of conversation and discussion with the development community about, what this looks like, how that's implemented. Next slide, Tom.
All right. Sorry about that. There we go.
Again, just, of course, at a very high level right now in that process, these are some of the major steps in, a process which is defined really in, state law. I want to say it's chapter 395 of the local government code, but, some specific steps for the city, and I think this committee in particular, to follow. So it's a look at development assumptions, both the CIP that we've been talking about a little bit, and then just what are those plans for growth, usually looked at or thought about in terms of land use assumptions. From those things, you can get a proposed impact fee. There's a requirement then for public hearing. There's time limits then on some of these things. So the committee then would review those things. I'm on step 4 now. There's a 30-day window then to, modify, update, get to a final, say, presentation of those things and adopt that or make that recommendation. There's then an additional public hearing, and finally moving forward, another 30-day window then for the council to act on and adopt a fee. Again, that's pretty quick, but just at a high level, those are the major steps involved in this process.
Yeah, Charles, on my note down at the bottom, there's an asterisk. That November 16th workshop was with some of the development community to review the impact fees, there we go, as well as the master plan and some of the alternatives we're looking at. So trying to keep everyone involved and knowledgeable of what we're doing with the development of the water master plan.
And an opportunity for us to visit it with them and hear directly some of the, just the way things work today in the city and understand the concerns.
Absolutely. All right, next slide.
Please, yeah.
Do you want to speak to this one, or Lisa, or?
Yeah, I certainly can here in a moment. This is something we, I think, first showed the development community at that November 16 meeting, or the council meeting the evening before, but just where the city we're rating is today, the green bar on the far left, where the state average is, the red bar there in the middle of the blue crowd, and then middle was the city, San Antonio, who's recently had a big increase in where they are today. They've jumped way down the line. But Laredo really has done a very good job of maintaining rates at a reasonable or low level and making the most of that funding stream to operate the system well today. I know that's come with some challenges in water quality, and that's being addressed, and I think we get to more of that here in a moment.
Yeah, Charles, I might also mention on this slide that San Antonio a few years ago, not very long ago, was one of the lower unit costs, and has recently become one of the higher unit costs. And a lot of that additional cost has to do with supplemental supplies, the Rio Vista pipeline that's bringing up to 50 million gallons a day in San Antonio. But it's important to know that adding these supplemental supplies has to be done very carefully in terms of the project, but also in terms of the financial impacts that those would bring along with them. One of the things we wanted to mention is we know the city has a delegation going to Washington to talk with your congressional delegation, some of which are very, some are like Congressman Cuellar, who is certainly a very influential appropriator. And we now have the advantage of the INVEST Act, which includes $55 billion for water projects. So one of the things the Water Master Plan can do is to identify some projects that the city may elect to take to Washington DC to see if they would qualify and be prioritized in the Invest in America infrastructure bill. So we'll be working with Gene and Rita and the staff, Arturo, to develop that as they need it. All right.
We got so much about the handoff, are we to you, or?
There's a question.
Well, I think at this point,
There's a question.
I think at this point,
Tom, there's a question that one of the members wants to ask.
okay?
Yes, sir. I would just caution that in your monthly residential charge comparison, that you take into account that the yearly income level here in Laredo is lower than other cities that are there. So, I agree that that's a good indicator that Laredo's doing well, but, we do have to take into account that we have a much lower, yearly income here. And so, the amount of money that a customer here in Laredo has to pay for their water is more of their total income than some of these other cities that seem to have higher rates. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's a very good point, yes. And, when we get into financing these projects, some of those types of economic factors will enhance the opportunity to secure federal grants or state grants. So that's a very good point. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tom, if I may add to that also, this particular slide has
Sure.
been developed by the Texas Municipal League, and it's a state survey that's done. So it doesn't necessarily account for those items, it just strictly reports that this is the baselines for water, does not include wastewater, I think, in this particular slide, and there isn't a real exact science that it's not a base use, it's average of 10,000 gallon usage, and so there may be municipalities that have a lower basic cost for the very initial first 5,000, but on average, that's what you're seeing. And Laredo is at the very far end of it, and there are cities like McAllen and Brownsville and others that are included in that might have similar income levels, but again, not factored into the table itself.
Good point.
Yeah, we think of our tiered rate structure as being a conservation rate structure, so that people will, but it's also a kind of a socio-economic rate structure. The poorer people will tend to use less, and so you charge them less at the bottom. So it's both, it's conservation and some of their financial abilities to give them that first 2,000 gallons, like Gene's talking about, at the lowest rate. So.
Guys, good point, Mike. Mike. I think at this point we've gone through the highlights. Again, the modeling, if you recall the roadmap there. The modeling identifies some of the needs in terms of capacity and replacement, to move water around Laredo, where it identifies some of the challenges in being able to use the Jefferson plant capacity to bring water south. It looks at the timing of a loop on the east side. So it prepares a CIP, if you will, and that's where Lisa comes in, and she's managing that part of things. It prepares a CIP that we go through with city staff, with Rita and Arturo, and then based on that, we look at impact fees as well, combined with the revenue from rates that's needed, and make recommendations. And we'll have an early, that last bullet on this slide, again, rates will be looked at in early 2022. That's when we'll have enough information, enough feedback from the city to make some recommendations in terms of what a rate, what type of rate is needed to support the master plan recommendations. Charles, Lisa, any other comments for the advisory group that I've left out?
Yeah, I think that's it. My apologies to Lisa, maybe I probably talked over her. I think we both talked to some of these slides at different times, but I just charged right through them.
Well, I think you covered all the points. Lisa, are we good?
I have, I'd like Mr. Ray, if possible, to get a copy of the goals that you, put up on the screen originally. Would that be possible?
Absolutely.
I think that was one of your first, slides.
We've been asking for that every presentation, Tony's emailed us, but I haven't received any.
Dude, can you see that? Is that the slide you're referring to?
No, sir,
that one
at the
there.
very beginning,
That one.
goals.
Just a presentation.
Yeah,
That's it, Tom, that one there were the master plan goals.
Yeah, the
Okay.
leader with the master plan
Okay.
goal.
No, if that's blocking the title.
Well, I don't wanna take up the committee's time, I'll get it from you later, sir. Also,
Very good. We'll get that to you, yes, sir.
okay, thank you. I wanna present a proper, report to the mayor who I, report to. Also, you mentioned Region M, more than one occasion. What kind of, communication is there with that Region M committee? Because they are the ones that have, you know, a lot of say-so about the future water projects in this region, Region M, which it includes Laredo and Webb County. I believe Mr. Nick Benavides is on that committee representing Laredo proper. But can you shed a little bit of light on how you are interacting or getting any input from the Region M committee people?
Well, I'll mention a couple of things briefly, but really defer to Rhea, who has been involved with Region M as well. But we, first of all, for the master plan, as I mentioned earlier, the demands, the water needs, the population growth came from Region M. So, you know, they had that's where you start with a master plan, either water or wastewater. You've got to have good projections on into the future, and Region M has done a good job of that. I know Rhea and others have been, from the city of Laredo, have been involved with making sure that those numbers are correct. I know Rhea was also involved. One of the projects we looked at is a water conservation project, essentially, but it's a reuse project that's outlined in some detail in the Region M plan. It is also going to be a part of the water master plan. So if I can't tell if Rhea's there or not, but he might speak to.
He stepped out
to that
for a moment.
question better than me.
No, he had to leave. He's
Rhea's
Oh.
gone, he's already left the meeting, but he is also on the board,
Okay,
so.
okay, so it's Rhea and then Nick's still on there?
Yes,
Nick's on the
executive.
Okay, that's real important that we have.
No, we do have a voice in the region.
Great, that's important, thank you.
That's, okay, all these plans that we can get into the Region M plan, all these improvements, that kind of thing, makes those projects eligible for enhanced funding.
All right.
SWIFT funding is what it's called. So it's an important process. It's an important program to have as part of the master plan.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One other question?
No.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Arturo, at this time, if we could have maybe Hector Benya just give just a brief update on the wastewater side, because this is an integrated wastewater master plan. It does include a wastewater component to it. And Ardura and their team is leading that with, again, help from LAN and vice versa. So Hector, if you just give us a quick update on that.
Thank you. Good to see everyone again, at least on video. I want to reintroduce myself. I'm Hector Pena, and like Gene said, we're leading the wastewater side of the integrated master plans. I will apologize that we have time later to jump off at 1 o'clock, but I'll be happy to provide at least a brief update of where we are, and want to show some exhibits and some data from our initial findings from the modeling and our analyzing existing systems. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just a second. All right. Okay, so start off just a quick update on the last month. We received some additional metering data from the city for the flows coming into South Laredo, and just to confirm our numbers, our current wastewater generation numbers for 2020, and therefore confirm our projections through 2070. So we have analyzed that data, and we were able to confirm our projections. So we have basically completed the wastewater flow projections through the 2070, which is a long-term scenario, and I'll be jumping from one screen to the other here to show what those numbers are. So Tom went over the population projections earlier, the water side, and as he showed, we're going from 301,000, basically from 300,000, and more than doubling in the next 50 years to over 600,000. So with that, the wastewater projections have increased even more than doubling more of the population numbers are doing. And just before we touch those numbers, just wanted to show a map here of the city and how it's divided into 3 major service areas shown here, between orange, pink, and blue. So we're looking at, and down here in orange is the South Laredo service area, the pink is North Laredo, and the blue is Zacate. So most of the, or I guess some of the wastewater flow increase is coming from the existing service areas, which are shown here by the light colors, the light orange, the light pink, and the light blue. But most of the actual growth is coming from the future service areas, which are shown by the brighter colors, the brighter orange, brighter blue, and brighter pink. But mostly, and we'll see in a second here in the next in the table that I showed briefly here, most of the additional flow is coming from the south, and specifically the brighter orange here, the future south service areas. So looking at those numbers here, again, the top table here shows the population projections, but the bottom here shows the actual dry weather flows, I guess current for 2020, and then every 10 years until 2070, again, the future scenario, right? So we can see currently, for the current north service area, we're going from 1.8 MGD, or million gallons per day of wastewater generation, and we're for the current existing north service area, we're going to 2.86, and then for the just as an example, for the future service area, so we're talking about the brighter pink here, we're adding an additional 4.28 MGD, right? So just for north, we're going basically from 1.8 to approximately 7, just over 7 MGD with the existing and the future north service areas combined. I'm going to skip here south and go straight to Zacate. Same for Zacate, we're going from 9.5 MGD to total combined of approximately 12.5 MGD by 2070. Then, going into south, and I skipped it just to show how big of an increase and how most of the flow is coming from south. We're going from 6.46 MGD currently, and we're looking at almost 30 MGD, just under 30 MGD with the current south and the future south service areas combined. So, just wanted to highlight that and look at the numbers in total again. The current flow, dry weather flow, at least in 2070 was 17.8 MGD, and we're estimating or projecting for that to increase to 48.8 MGD citywide. All right, so this exhibit here. So in addition to looking at wastewater flow projections, we have analyzed or evaluated the existing conditions of the collection system. This is just a map showing the city's existing collection system from gravity mains, showing in green, force mains, and orange and red. A bit harder to see since they're less force mains than gravity mains. And then lift stations and this red dots, along with the 6 wastewater treatment plants here, represented by the blue stars. So we've analyzed the system based on age of the pipes and manholes, just based on age of the infrastructure when it was installed, based on material of the pipe, and based on the work order history. So where the city has had the most issues and has had to address most of the work orders that have been generated. So here's another map that has been color coded to show where we have identified for replacements or reconstructions are needed. I'm going to zoom into the legend here so we can see how we're going from green to yellow to orange and then red as a priority that we have identified increases, both for manholes and for gravity mains. So scrolling up here to show what that looks like on the city map. This has allowed us to identify not just individual pipe segments, but look at areas in general. As we can see here, there's a high concentration of high priority lines and manholes in the downtown area that should be addressed or replaced sooner than later. There's another small area here off of Del Mar and down here by the Zacapa line. So this exercise has allowed us to put together a replacement schedule based on priorities. It's of course tackling the most critical first, and then moving on to the next 50 years on how and when these pipes and manholes need to be replaced. So we're currently working on developing cost estimates and developing projects to address these, and that will present to the city and recommend to be implemented into the CPCIP plan. Another one of the efforts that we're working on has been the modeling. So we have updated, at this point, we have updated the previous model, which was done in 2015. And so the current model already reflects the existing system, all the changes that have happened in the last 60 years now. And these are just to show some initial modeling results here. This map here shows the piping that was modeled is just for pipe size 10 inches and larger, so we can see there shows significantly less piping than in the previous maps. But just to share some of these results, this map here is showing the current 2021 dry weather flow conditions and how percent full or showing what pipes are at or near capacity. So again, we're using some color codes here going from blue to red, the ones that are surcharged, and orange is the ones that are almost at capacity. So we can see we have a few, but some sections that have been identified that are at capacity. Then we look at the next map, which is the same conditions, but we're looking at a 2-year, 24-hour storm, and we can see we have a significantly larger or more issues or pipes being going to be surcharged in the model. So we have done the same. This is for pipes. We've done the same for manholes and looking at freeboard. Amount of freeboard again. We have 2 maps. This one showing the current dry weather flows.
Mr. Peña,
And
you got like a little less than 10 minutes.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Blue. This is just a couple more. These are the last 2 that I was showing. So again, showing what locations we have manholes that have reduced the freeboard. So we're looking at the ones in blue or purple here have less than a foot of freeboard, which looks like there's only one in this condition with dry weather flows, and looks like we don't have any overflows, sanitary sewer overflows as far as dry flows with current flow conditions, right? If we look at 2-year, 24-hour storms, you can see there are a significant number of manholes that have that are showing overflows in the model, and of course we're analyzing this for future flow projections as well, but still working on those to produce those results. We just wanted to show where we are at the moment with our modeling efforts. But that was a quick, brief update, and I'm happy to answer questions in the next 10 minutes if anyone has any. So.
Are these flow predictions, these are clean pipes, they tabulate them, or they just check to see how they're flowing, how they get their information?
They installed flow meters, so we got actual flow conditions.
But the pipes have been cleaned and televised and all that?
Part of our maintenance is cleaning of the lines.
And then on the prediction of all the repairs that need to be done, and like he mentioned, you know, the amount of people have to pay, but I mean, water's the number 1 source, and sewage is the number 1 source. I mean, where they shop and where they spend the money is one thing, but, you know, we might have to increase to get these situations fixed and keep it at just the minimum rate, well, we're never gonna get Laredo fixed in that. So that's one thing to consider. Sometimes we say the low income, but also how do they spend their money? I mean, water is the most important of everything, you know. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Peña. And
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
thank you very much for the good presentation.
Our time limit is real close. I don't know if we wanna just.
I can quickly, for the next item, if you mind, Mr. Chairman, the water quality assessment, I'll just give you a brief synopsis of it. At the meeting, City Council, they just presented the TCQ investigation regarding the water quality issues, identified 11 alleged violations, which were at the water treatment plant, 7, the water storage improvement tanks, which were the tanks, and 3 reporting incidents. So those are being addressed by the consultant. We're developing a plan of action so that we can reach superior water quality, and that's something that's gonna take probably the next 9 to 12 months to us to reach that point. But that's just it in summary.
But this won't get us into a water boil situation, right?
That our goal is to maintain a water quality residual, and currently right now, staff is doing an excellent job.
I've seen a lot of flushing that I've never seen.
We're having to do a lot of flushing because we gotta move that aged water out.
In places that I've never seen it before, so commend you guys for that.
But the staff is working hard, so we're looking at about usually within a 1 to 2 year plan to get everything in order. That's it for the,
Item 7, secondary water source.
secondary water source. I just wanted to kind of update you regarding the work that Legacy Water Supply Corporation is doing. They're still doing their drilling. They're hoping to have in the month of January, water quality report. Once that information is communicated to us, I'll bring that to the board so they know what the groundwater quality is for the area that's in North Webb County. And we continue to work with them, and they will also be incorporating that information into our water master plan. So they go hand in hand.
On that issue, Mr. Chairman, I think that sooner or later, this committee is gonna need to have a special workshop or a meeting separate from our normal city water. It's a big issue, there's a lot to it, and I don't know that we'd be able to address it in one meeting, so.
No, in the past meetings, we've tried to incorporate a lot of stuff together. We might reduce our agenda a little bit to some of the more severe things. I think we've got a very good presentation of where the master plan is going. That's important to stay on top of that. The water quality assessment, thank you, Arturo, for that too. But I do believe that the secondary water sources, that's why we were developed to begin with as a board, for the secondary water source, and we have done it for over 3 years.
Yes.
So that's very important, and I think the committee, the group mentioned that, you know, we have to have a secondary water. That's been my biggest fear, and I've echoed that a lot of times. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
And I would, you know, again, propose that maybe when we're ready, maybe we're not ready yet, but we have a workshop separate and apart from our regular meetings.
Yes, I
Just
agree.
to
No, I agree.
discuss that.
And the thing that I'd like to see able to do is how big are our teeth? You know, I mean, if we make a recommendation to City Hall and it's falls on deaf ears, then we're not doing anything here but just having a sandwich and going home. You know, and we really need to have some teeth in what we do, and, because there's a lot of people involved here, and we need to back them up, especially with the city. All right, anything else on secondary water source? I'm with you on probably.
I'll make sure, Mr. Chairman, to make sure, to put this agenda item always on our meeting.
Okay,
Make sure
yes,
it's all
definitely. Item 8,
Item 8, from the last meeting, I just passed out the resolution that council presented, and that's just for your information. But the resolution was passed, and I think this is our first step to going towards having a future funding source for our groundwater and emergency resource, water resource.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are you all privy to what you're paying per acre feet when you buy them outside of the rate? I mean,
I think right now, as far as the
what you pay for it? I'm in real estate, I come across people that are wanting to sell their water rights.
So water rights, depending on the type, but I think the most that we paid is 3,000?
Yeah.
Per acre.
Per acre.
Class A.
Class A. Depending on the class.
Yeah.
But that's for
That's
surface water.
Class A and B.
To the groundwater management area 13.
Very good.
It's already been presented to GMA 13?
Yes.
Okay, and then, items for next meeting, I guess the secondary water source, of course, needs to be on there. I don't believe we need to go through the master plan anymore again. And anything that anybody else wants to say, please call in.
I would like to maybe consider, for the committee to consider, lengthening our meeting just a little bit, maybe to an hour and 15 minutes. I don't
We
know how
normally
much
do,
that-
we normally go, sometimes we've been up here at 1:30, but we're trying to say, keep it to an hour if we can.
I understand, but, you know, we have some real important items here, and some of them take up a lot of time.
No, and I'm not gonna call the meeting at the end of the hour. Let's just kind of expedite like the water master plan. I think some of us have heard that before and gets pretty redundant and we spend a lot of time. But yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm not on a timeline myself, but other people.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna be provided copies of the slides concerning the water master plan report.
I guess I can email her.
Yeah, I will email those out.
Please.
This presentation will be mailed out to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll have the goals and everything.
Anything else, folks?
No, sir.
And I appreciate your attendance. I need a motion to adjourn.
Before you adjourn, you
Yes.
need to determine the next meeting date, or y'all have?
We've been slipping it, so we had what was it?
Second Thursday.
Second, third?
It'll be January 13th.
January
Yeah,
13th.
let's try and keep that, Anything else? Motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion, I need a second. Second, Mr. Ramirez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.